I'm Alina Vance, a woman of 35 years, and my life in Asheville, North Carolina has always been a quiet masterpiece of mountain air and warm community. I run a small pottery studio downtown, where the scent of clay and the hum of the wheel are as comforting as an old friend. My adoptive parents, Mary and Robert, are my anchors. They built my world with love and patience. And I've always known I was adopted, but it was never a sorrowful secret, just a simple fact of my existence, a tiny detail. The grand design of a life that felt whole and complete. I loved my life here among the Blue Ridge Mountains. My mornings started with a cup of locally roasted coffee, watching the mist rise over the peaks, feeling the steady rhythm of a life, well lived, a life I had chosen and cherished. Then one afternoon in late September, a message popped up on my Facebook feed from a name I vaguely recognized: Kimberly Stone. It was an unexpected jolt to my peaceful existence. The name was familiar in the way a forgotten melody might be stirring something deep inside me. I had always known my birth mother was short and petite and that her first name was Kim. This woman was asking about my birth parents, hinting that she might know them instead of just saying who she was. It was a strange, manipulative Dan. And a cold feeling spread through me. I knew in my gut that this was her, the woman who had been out of my life since I was 2.5 years old, the same 2.5 year old taken from her due to extremely extenuating circumstances, a phrase I'd heard whispered by my adoptive parents with quiet sadness over the years, a dark cloud lingering in my past that I'd never quite understood but always respected. The privacy around it felt like an intrusion, a sudden gust of wind threatening. Unravel the carefully woven tapestry of my peaceful life. I had no problem to solve until she appeared. Now I had a giant one, and her name was Kim. I tried to be polite at first, sending a message back to Kim, explaining that I was a bit overwhelmed, that this was a lot to process, and that I needed some space to think. I genuinely believed she would understand, but my words seemed to float past her like smoke through a screen door. Her messages continued arriving at all hours of the day and night. They were increasingly personal, asking about my childhood, my adoptive parents, my life details she had no right to demand. I felt a growing sense of unease. Violation of the boundaries I tried so hard to establish. It was like trying to stop a waterfall with a teacup. She just kept coming and coming, never truly hearing what I was saying, or perhaps just choosing to ignore it. My attempts to create a buffer were utterly failing, and the problem was growing like a rapidly swelling river after a heavy mountain rain. Then in the middle of October, Kim sent a message that made my stomach drop. She excitedly announced that she had found my biological father, a man she called Craig, and that she was going to reach out to his other children to tell them about me. I felt a pang of protectiveness for these unknown siblings, and for Craig himself. I told her firmly that she shouldn't, that it wasn't her place to share such sensitive information with strangers, but Kim, being Kim, disregarded my wishes completely, gleefully messaging me later that day to say she had already done it, and that Craig was furious. She found it hilarious the way a child finds pleasure in breaking a toy. I didn't care about Craig's anger, not really. But I was horrified by Kim's complete lack of respect for anyone's boundaries, including her own children's feelings. It was a huge step over the line, dragging more innocent people into her chaotic orbit. I felt my privacy eroding, my control over my own narrative slipping away like sand through my fingers. The worst part was Kim's insistent need to be the first. She constantly messaged me saying she wanted to be the first one to talk to me on the phone, the first one to meet me in person. It was a demand, a declaration of ownership that made my skin crawl. How dare she, after all these years of absence, try to dictate the terms of my future relationships with people I didn't even know yet? She was like a persistent fly buzzing around my head, refusing to leave and making me feel utterly trapped. Situation I never asked for. I felt a deep anger, a quiet rage simmering beneath my calm exterior. This woman who had lost her parental rights to me, who had been a ghost for 32 years, was now trying to manipulate me and my new potential family members. I was losing control of my own story, and it was agonizing. The lowest point came when her relentless pressure started to affect my sleep and my pottery work. I found myself staring blankly at the wheel, unable to focus on the clay. My hands felt clumsy, my mind clouded with Kim's latest intrusive message or her demands for my time and attention. I felt a profound sense of helplessness, a growing dread that I would never escape her relentless pursuit. I felt completely drained by her endless neediness and manipulation. I was so focused on trying to that I wasn't even able to process my true feelings about these new siblings, this new family that was suddenly a part of my life. Then one day, completely by accident, something unexpected happened. I received a Facebook Messenger video call from an unknown number on a Thursday afternoon. I was startled and almost didn't answer, but something compelled me to pick up. A blurry image appeared on my screen, a woman's face, startled and apologetic. She mumbled something about a pocket dial and that she was at work and had to go before quickly hanging up. It was Courtney, my half-sister. I thought, a wave of confusion and then a strain. Warmth washed over me. It was so quick, so unexpected, but I had seen her face, even if only for a second. And then moments later, my phone rang again on Facebook Messenger. This time it was a man, James. He said he noticed Courtney had accidentally called me and wanted to see what was up. He was kind and friendly. And we chatted for a few minutes about nothing in particular, just getting a sense of each other. I felt a genuine connection, a spark of something new and exciting. It was incredible. Two of my half-siblings, I had met them, I had seen them, I had talked to them, even if briefly, and Kim was absolutely nowhere in sight. She was not the first one, not the first to speak to me on the phone, not the first to meet me, and I suddenly felt a surge of quiet defiance, a secret little victory that was all mine. The true revenge, the final strike, was not going to be a loud explosion, but a silent erosion of Kim's control. I knew she desperately craved that first status, that validation that she was somehow central to my life or these new connections. But she wasn't. I had video chatted with Courtney and James. I had seen their faces and heard their voices, and Kim knew nothing about it. I had already started building a connection with them, a genuine one, free from her interference, her desperate attempts to be center of everything had failed, and she didn't even know it. I continued to respond to her messages with polite but vague replies. "I'm still processing things, Kim," I would write. "I'll let you know when I'm ready to connect with anyone new." Well, all the while I was having real conversations with Courtney and James, sharing photos of my pottery studio, talking about my life in Asheville, learning about theirs, I found myself smiling more, genuinely feeling a lightness I hadn't realized I'd lost in the mountain air. I had reclaimed my own narrative, my own pace for these new relationships, and the satisfaction was immense. I didn't need to tell Kim. She would never be the first, because she was already the last to know I was living a new reality. And she was being left behind, clinging to an outdated version of events, where she still held some power over me. My connections with Courtney and James grew stronger with each passing day. We talked about our shared biological father and the strange twists of fate that brought us together. They were wonderful, kind people. And my adoptive parents, Mary and Robert, were overjoyed for me, embracing my new siblings with the same warmth they had always shown me. My new normal was an expansion of my old one, a tapestry woven with more threads, more colors, but with the same strong foundation of love and family. Kim eventually. From my inbox, her messages becoming less frequent, then stopping altogether, perhaps realizing the futility of her efforts, or perhaps I just blocked her number when her last desperate attempts at communication became too much to bear. The ultimate poetic consequence was that Kim, the woman who desperately wanted to be the first, was forever denied that satisfaction. She had lost control and didn't even know it. But the true unexpected twist, the final flourish of my quiet revenge, came months later, when Courtney posted a beautiful photo on her public social media page, a picture of the three of us, me, Courtney, and James, smiling widely, as we hiked one of the gorgeous trails in the Pisgah National Forest. I remember the crisp mount air that day, the joy in my heart, and the ease of our conversation. Courtney had tagged both James and me in the post, and then a few hours later a notification popped up on my phone. One, I almost missed a single comment on Courtney's picture from Kimberly Stone. "So happy you all finally got to meet." Accompanied by a smiling emoji, it was a public acknowledgement of her defeat, a visible sign to anyone who knew us that her desperate desire to be the first had not only failed, but had been broadcast for the world to see. I smiled, a long, slow, satisfied smile, as I scrolled past her comment, knowing that her accidental petty revenge had been perfectly executed with the beauty and silence of a Carolina sunrise.